A very good evening to one and all. I am Dr. Surabhi Mitra, consultant psychiatrist and the moderator of this show. 8th March was Women's Day, and we couldn't do it on 8th March because we schedule our shows specifically on Saturdays. So the next Saturday was 11th March, that is today, and that is the reason we decided to celebrate the Women's Day theme today. So the UN's Women's Day theme for this year is DigitALL, Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality. For this topic, we have some brilliant speakers amongst us. I will start introducing them. So we have Shakun Sethi. Shakun began her journey as a high-risk entrepreneur with the launch of TickleLife, Inc.'s podcast platform. Today, the platform is a popular censorship-free audio community among high-risk business experts. Her company has also developed dedicated video, email, and web marketing tools for adult wellness, sex tech, and health counseling sectors. Shakun has spent the last 5+ years understanding the unique needs of high risk businesses such as adult wellness, sex tech, adult toys, marketplaces, online gaming, fantasy sports, etc. Please welcome her on board.
Hi, Dr. Surabhi. Thank you so much for
Hello,
bringing.
welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for bringing me here. I'm really excited. So to meet other people and just to share what I believe in, and being here. So thank you so much.
Most welcome. Next, we have Mukta Ghosh, human resource professional with 12 years of diversified HR generalist experience across industries, banking, media, and IT telecom. Experienced in handling 24,000 plus employees at a zonal level, handles responsibilities like strategy and execution of end-to-end recruitment, HR business partnering, performance management, key business projects, campus recruitment, employee relations, capability building, and talent management, change management as well. Please welcome Mukta Ghosh.
Hi, Surabhi. Thanks for having me here. Really looking forward to having some great conversations with all the panelists and looking forward to meeting them as
Hello,
well.
welcome. Yes, most welcome. Revolutionizing the world of handcrafted weaves and jewelry. She has a master's in business management and a bachelor's in physics. Has nearly 2 decades of business experience in setting up sales and marketing for brands, and has always been part of the digital startup ecosystem. Priyashmita Guha is director DLAI, Digital Lenders Association of India, India's only trade body for digital lenders. Priyashmita manages the entire operations starting from membership acquisition, member outreach plan, event management, research, and overall operations of the trade body. So please welcome Priyashmita Guha.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Surbi. And really happy to be here to talk about a topic very close to my heart.
So welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
Lastly, we have Tumpa Singh. 18 years work experience majorly in HR talent acquisition function, worked with multiple MNCs. She's MBA HR, leading teams managing end-to-end recruitment services, including strategizing, partnering, business, and providing best-in-class hiring solutions to business that include pre-hiring plan, sourcing strategies, effective screening, selection, offer negotiation, and management, along with onboarding solutions. Work involves HR activities like sourcing, recruitment, background verification, onboarding, team management, employee engagement, HR audit and quality control, vendor management, and MIS reporting. Please welcome Tumpa Singh.
Hi, thank you, Surbi, for that introduction. Really overwhelmed, and it's great to be a part of this panel, this discussion. Looking forward to these conversations with all of you, and a very, very interactive and insightful conversation. So, thanks for having me as a part of this panel.
Absolutely, and you're welcome on the panel. Okay, so let us begin with our topic. So, before that, we would like to give a disclaimer to the audience that you see all the females in the panel today, but it is still about gender equality. This is not a webinar on feminism. Please let us make it very clear. Because once I shared today's poster and today's links with a lot of people, their major concern was that you people are going to talk about gender equality and there is no male on the panel. So we assure you that we would be talking about men's rights as well. And this is not a webinar on feminism. We have already done one on feminism and we don't plan to repeat it. Okay, so gender equality. Now, moving ahead, what do you people exactly mean by digitalization and DigitALL? What do you think of this UN theme of this year's Women's Day? So we can start with Shakun. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, and I apologize for the muting. Apparently, digitally, you can't be that suave while you're talking about being digital. Well, I started my career by being a digital professional, a digital marketing professional. So for me, when somebody asks me this question, how important it is to be digitally endowed and have, the capability or the access to digital component in your life, I just do not know any other way. And quite frankly, if whatever I'm doing, if I did not had the potential or I did not have the privilege to have get my hands dirty with digital component, nothing would have happened. I would not even be talking here. Like right now we are sitting in different parts of the country and we're still getting to talk to each other, and we're also in a potential and to talk to much more people who might be listening to us since it's a live channel. So I just think, and I do believe, that there is no life anymore unless there's a digital component attached to it. And if everybody doesn't has that access, while understanding that it is also important that how do you safeguard people when they are digitally evolved, when they're using when they're using their mobile phones, when they're using internet, when they're even accessing Facebook or Twitter, it just becomes very important. So I just think this there is no question about how important it is or not. It is as imperative as food and water and air right now. So yeah, so I just don't even get it, like why somebody would think that there is another way of living.
All right. All right. So I think we can continue with the same question with Priyashmita also.
Hi. So first of all, I think this is a very, very important, theme this year. The reason is, as in the growing world, I think digital access is extremely important to have equality. Just to give an example, that women do not have as much access to digital things, especially in rural India. I mean, we are coming from a privileged urban India. In rural India, the access is much lesser, and so is the usage. Also, to give an example, I mean, as you mentioned, I wear two hats. I have a D2C brand, and I'm also the CEO of a trade body in India, which is into digital lending. So first of all, for every 20,000 men which use digital payments, only 12,000 do it, as per the 2022 records. That is the difference in terms of access to this one. And it is not just because adoption, it is because products are not created for women. If you ask for digital loans, I don't have the exact number, but the number of women which get loans through digital lending is far lesser compared to men. The reason again is AI bias, because most digital products have a bias because of AI, etc. And that's because the hiring bias, and I've been often speaking about it. So I think digital, if you do not make a conscious effort to have digital access to everyone, you will be having an equal world, and which will only, the divide will only grow as we go further. So I think the concept is very important, the theme is very important, and we need to now make a conscious decision when we create products. We often create products without keeping the female user in mind. Most products, especially digital, mostly kept keeping the male user in mind, and that is where the access gets differentiated. Not to mention that I think in 2021, I do not have a report after that, there was that 15% less women have access to mobile phones, etc., smartphones, compared to men. So in all across, at least in this country, and I think across the globe, because I have done various studies across the globe on this, there is a differentiation in access to digital, and that differentiation becomes even more glaring as you move from an urban privileged life to urban non-privileged life and to rural life. So I think as a theme, this is very important and something that I'm glad that we are speaking about finally.
Okay. Priyashmita, thank you for your input. Uh, Tumpa and Mukta, would you like to add to this question?
I think
I think,
Shweta has
sorry.
almost summed up what the UN International Women's Day was all about, and it was shocking to hear that 35% of females do not have access to internet, or they do not access internet the way it should have been. That clearly states that how much of it is important to create that awareness and educate the females to bring in the parity that we are looking forward in the future talent. So it is, I think, very, very important, and we know how the world around us is evolving and changing. The workplaces are changing, and everything is based on technology. So it is very important that we upskill our females, we upskill our next generation equally, so that we can take this forward to the next level. I think we still have a long way to go as a country, and I think as we just heard that from an urban state to a rural, the difference is glaringly very much at our face, especially in India. So that is definitely a matter of concern, and it would be great to see that how, as a country, we are addressing this issue.
All right, Mukta did want to say something, so let's take her on board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Shakun, Priyasmita, and of course Tumpa covered it very well. But then I work for a telecommunication company, right? And we are in the business of connecting people. And I think and a very very important data point picked up by all of y'all was that only 1/3 of women population has access to internet or digital India, right? Which is I think which is why we are having this conversation, because now is the time to make all of us aware, about what is actually happening in the country, in the world. And I think it starts with the basic fundamental right to information, right? We find ourselves completely blanked when we don't get access to internet, right? Or telephone, right? And one such example probably, and from my very personal experience, was I was traveling to one of the states where they were having a competitive exam, and because of course security reasons, they had cut off internet usage for the entire day, right? It was about to start coming back at 6 o'clock in the evening. And trust me, my journey from airport to the institute I was visiting, I mean, it was all very blurred for me because I could not access Google Maps. I could not see if I'm going on the right path, right? So I think it is a very, very pertinent topic in today's world. And I think it's high time that we should actually be the flag bearer, and I think take it ahead. And yes, I mean, of course, there's already work happening, and of course I would love to be part of such initiatives where we can talk more about it. So yeah, those were my 2 cents. Surabhi, back to you.
Okay, Mukta, thank you so much. Thank you for adding on. Uh, let's move ahead and actually talk about. Okay, we have a question. Isn't social media platforms these days like Instagram and TikTok quite heavily used by women? Given the amount of content created and consumed on these platforms, the impact must be huge. Anyone can take this question.
So I would like to. First of all, you are mixing. There are two things to digital. When the women's theme got created this year, it wasn't about entertainment on this one. It was about access, and access is like getting, for example, like I said, the payment access, the loan access, and things like that. So they're completely two different things. Second, the TikTok, Instagram, etc., is still a very, very urban phenomena. And if we are going to discuss digital, we cannot say that women's right is only for the urban boardroom women. It is not. Women's right is for every woman, or rather, gender equality is for everyone. So that way, your TikTok and Instagram is not being consumed at the level that we are discussing. So while I'm not saying that the consumption is not going up, so the consumption is going up, but it is still not accessible to all. It is like if you have someone who for one third people are not getting that access, it's still, that means it's not accessible to all, in spite of the numbers growing up, and the numbers will, touch wood, keep going up. So for example, maybe 5 years ago, even lesser number of women would have had access to it. Now it has gone up. It is still not digital as we calling it, because it's not for all. That's the basic difference.
And I would like to add something to this. See, Sanjip, when you're talking about the content which is created on different platforms, so a lot of them are created keeping in mind that they're targeted at women. So I would put them all under femtech. Anything, any industry which is completely like directed at women. So, in a way, great, a lot is being done, a lot is being targeted to women, but we also have to look behind, like, who is funding them. So, there's still the content which is being created is created by men, you know. If, because specifically when we were talking about women, if we just keep, like, if you're just thinking about men and women as two genders, so we really have to think about this thing, that irrespective of whether we look at urban or rural, just to answer your question, yes, femtech as an industry is growing. Yes, a lot of marketing, a lot of servicing is done on digital, on social networks, via Google, via big tech. But ultimately, where is the money coming from and who is it going to? So once we understand that, we will start understanding one very simple part, that there is still disparity irrespective of what we see while sitting in our own houses, while doing just going for our jobs. The disparity stays, and it is really, really very hard to to bring a change to it. So yeah, so that was my just input from the kind of industry that I come to, that even though we see a lot of content happening, a lot of people talking about things, but it still ultimately is done with a very, like, a very myopic view. Dr. Surabhi, back to you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, and let's continue with the major topic, that is gender equality. So we are in 2023 now. So what does gender equality mean to you in 2023, and what all do you expect is comprised of this term equality? So Tumpa, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that. So, for me, in today's world, gender equality means every individual, irrespective of the gender. It is not about man versus woman. It is about everyone. So, regardless of their gender, should be entitled to same rights, opportunities, and protections. Which is like every individual should be looked at from a corporate standpoint. If I have to add that their performance should be assessed agnostic of their gender, and they should be getting equal opportunities. There should be equality in the way we treat them. There should be an equality in the way we assess them, and there should not be any disparity. That is an ideal state that we all want to achieve as an organization or as an HR professional. However, there are many other loopholes which is yet to be addressed, and organizations are working towards it. That how do we achieve that ideal state that we want to, in terms of their payment, in terms of their assessment, in terms of their appraisal, in terms of hiring, maintaining that balance, in terms of promoting, uh, to the leadership role. So there is always a lot of effort that we have seen in the human resource function to bring in more policies, to bring in more ideas, and to bring in more efforts towards keeping this balance and maintaining this equality. Over to you, Surya.
And probably, Surbi, if I can just add on to what Tumpa said, being an HR professional myself, I think very, very relevant points, picked up by Tumpa. And having said that, gender equality in 2023 is essentially ensuring that every individual, irrespective of their gender, and of course there are a lot other diversities that we talk about, but yes, specifically gender here, that they get an equal opportunity to make most of their lives and their talents that they have, right? And for me, I think gender equality in 2023 also talks about the the very, very hot topic of this year's International Women's Day, which is embracing equity, right? So in order to be able to continue to do that, we need to also talk about, how do we embrace equities, right? How do we actually, and by equity, of course, we mean that historically whatever wrongs have happened, we need to make corrections, make it right, and therefore continue in our journey of gender equality, right? So just ensuring that every individual gets the same platform to showcase the talents that they have. Yeah, back to you, Surbi.
So, Dr. Savi, just to add to that, I think equality is across the board. I think if I look to talk about corporate equality, it is the India is stands at a staggering 27% pay gap as of 2023. The boardroom is so unrepresented. I mean, 50% boardroom representation would be, I think, 1 in a million company that you will find. uh, Women do not have access to healthcare as much as men do, especially rural women. We still do not talk about, like I said, access to loans. As I spoke about, coming from the fintech background, access to loans, payment products. No products, tech or fintech, are made for women. So equality is still, and something as simple as, conferences still have manuals even to discuss women's right, which is, I think I saw one on 8th March. I don't remember who did it. There were 7 or 6 men discussing our rights, and not a single one of us were there. So equality has to become an ethos with all of us. And equality at home, equality at when you go to work, equality at healthcare, which I think is still staggeringly missing in every stage of the life. The only good thing is at least we are discussing it, we are open about it. But I don't think we're still accepting it. We still say, no, why should we do this? We're looking for the best, this one. As a matter of fact, I had this argument with someone in January, with another actually female co-founder. And she said, if you put in, why do you don't want manners? You want to have the best person out there, whichever place you're hiring. The point is, when you're looking at ensuring that there is a gender, let's say a boardroom 50%, it is not that you're taking somebody who's worse off. You're just doing an extra effort to find somebody who's equally good as the male counterpart as you would have found, except from an unrepresented category, in which case the women, or in this case the women. So the point is, when you say that there needs to be an effort, it doesn't mean, and this is a common myth that we have, that when you go for diversity it means you're lacking in talent. No, diversity just means that you've got to put in a little bit of extra effort. And that is what I think is woefully missing as yet, but I think something that we are. So equality needs to be across, and hopefully that will change, but let's see.
Can I add to this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not specific to anybody and anybody's opinion, but if if you ask me what does equality mean, and that's what we've been even talking to and talking about in our company, which if you look at, we have, I don't know, like at least 7 to 8 different people who identify as different genders, different pronouns. We are very, very inclusive. But ultimately what really, really makes sense, and I what I want to see is the day we do not have to say a female founder, or we do not have to say a female chef, the day you do not have to specify what gender you are in, and the day when you actually go, like, in my case, whenever I go for a VC fundraise, the experience that I have are very different from other counterpart male founders. So once that thing is like shattered, I think that's when we will be in a position to say, hey, you know what, we finally in a position to say that we've managed to get equality, and now we have to look out for what more we can do as humanity, rather than still be stuck with one part, second part. Hey, we need to bring in more people, we need to bring more inclusive people. Because if we keep on doing that, what's going to happen is there is going to be some animosity with people. So until unless we reach that level, and I think that's actually going to be the hardest level and the longest time to reach there. I just think, even if I have hundreds of events, even if we have hundreds of panels, even if women founders start getting more investments, even if femtech, sex tech, like I'm into high risk. A lot of high risk companies are run by women globally. You know, everything would just have a very, very small impact. The impact will actually start happening is when we forget about what gender somebody belongs to, what, where they belong to. You just have to believe that, this is a person who's competent enough.
Shakun,
That's
I completely agree with you, but that's going to happen when we actually have some level of equality. Today,
That's
if we do not make a conscious effort, we will not reach the. See, today, if I do that, I'll be very honest with you. Say, for example, I run one of the biggest fintech events in India. If I just think of the best person and do not put in the absolute mandate of no manner, the easiest way out would be to have the men out there, because the best, and not that none of them are worse than the other. The only thing is, at today's date in 2023, I have to make an effort. I have to be conscious about it. Hopefully
I
in
absolutely
2025, 2027, the situation that you're talking about is where we'll reach, and hopefully we should have reached it by now. As
So
a matter of fact, yeah, absolutely.
So that is what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that, what you're saying doesn't make sense. What I'm saying is whatever we are doing, it ultimately has to reach to that level. Like even
Absolutely.
right now, when a lot of us talk, we end up saying, "Hey guys, what's up?"
Absolutely.
While understanding that even if I would have panels, I would have, in my team, 80% of the people who are going to be not men, still, if I end up saying, "Hey guys, what's up?" you know ultimately it's going to stuck in my head, and then that's not going to change. So even if you're going to end up doing hundreds of events, but while this thing is stuck in your head, it's not going to change. So
Absolutely.
ultimately what I'm trying to say is, for me, what I would when I will say that, okay, fine, equality has been, we are in a state where we can say that, hey, we have equality, is when we would not be talking about this. So obviously I'm not talking about today, I'm not talking about tomorrow, but I'm talking about maybe in like next 20, 30 years. So that was what I was saying. I completely agree with what all you're saying. I was just talking about, in future, this is what I want to see.
Yeah, I think equality will be the day when we don't need to have a women's day, because we are all equal. I think the goal would be no women's day, and that's something that I look forward to. I don't want to have a women's day because we've reached it, but I don't see that
Every
happening
day,
in my
Tuesday,
lifetime. But
every day you
hopefully,
wake up, every day you do. On a Saturday, we all are sitting here, and like technically we're still working. So obviously we're working. So we need offs, we need sabbaticals, whatever. So yeah. Tumpa had something to say, if I'm not wrong,
yeah,
because you
I
raised
think
hand.
Mukta too. I think she
I
raised her hand.
Okay.
was doing what we just heard, that if we don't make that conscious effort, then it would be difficult to reach that ideal state which you just mentioned, Shakun, that once we reach maybe 25 or 30 years down the line, I don't know how soon we reach there, but till that point, we need to continue to make this effort. Just a very small context to that, I would want to add that organizations or big MNCs, they target a higher percentage of campus joiners in a diversity bucket, and only with the vision that many female employees during their course of employment life cycle, they drop out because either they are caregivers or they become mothers, they choose to take care of their family, their kids, and eventually, even if they have a bright career in front of us, they choose to opt out. And unfortunately, we see that not 100% of them can make it to the top level, and it eventually becomes, the percentage become low, less and less. And hence I think there is a lot of consciousness, and many organizations, they try to at least bring in more diverse talent at an entry level so that it can be balanced out the way they grow up the ladder. So these sort of small efforts have to be made by the organization, and it has to be top down, and the leadership has to understand and recognize that this is important, and there has to be certain quota that has to be maintained. And we need to look at the overall, since I am into talent acquisition, I'm talking from the hiring standpoint, that we need to maintain a certain percentage that we call as a target, but at the end of the day, it is all contributing towards those bigger picture. So yes, that's what I wanted to add to the conversation. Thank you.
No, I think, and very interesting conversations. I think, and from a like Tumpa mentioned, from a talent acquisition point of view, and I think even when we manage talents, right? When we talk about performance management, we talk about dealing with critical talents. See, I mean, I agree with Priyasmita when she said that, we don't essentially have to be celebrating Women's Day because that's the normal, right? And similarly, I think when even in organizations, when we drive these off cycles or performance appraisals, etc., we do have it in our minds that we need to look at the diversity bit of it, how are they getting paid, etc. But then at the end of the day, I mean, I would not want to be just getting a raise not for my talent but just because I'm a woman, right? So that is where I think that is where our thought process, our thinking needs to be challenged, that I bring in the same amount of talent on the table. I bring in a lot of newness in the way I think and new perspectives to the table, and I should be paid as per that, and not just because of the fact that I'm a woman colleague, right? So yeah, I mean, with that, I think we I would probably give it back to Surbi. I think I mean, great conversations happening, and I think we can go on. Yeah, back to you, Surbi. Okay, so I think Surbi is having
It's
a little bit of
facing.
a technical issue. She's not there, I guess. So let us, I think, get the conversation started, and I think now we can, probably move on to the next bit of it, which I can see is that many a times we do go on with casual sexism, right? Even at home or at workplace. Do we relate to any of such instances that you can maybe talk about, that you would have faced, or you've noticed, around people, I mean, anything that comes to your mind. So be sorry, I was just trying to get the conversation started while you were away.
No, no, absolutely. I actually asked the admin to make someone do it for me because my network had a lot of issues. So now it's okay. So thank you, Mukta, for doing it.
No problem.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So let's discuss about casual sexism. Have you experienced it yourself, and have you noticed that somebody else in front of you has experienced it? And if so, have you stood up for yourself, or have you, retaliated? Have you shown some sort of a discomfort? So
I think
let's
I'd
discuss
start
that.
with that, Surabhi.
Sure.
Early on, I'm a single child, right? While getting raised up, and during my formative years, there were a lot of, uh, parents used to be like that, you have to come back home early, and probably that was from a very protective thought process, right? I mean, that it is not safe, etc. But then we went to college and stuff like that, and then it was still like, you have to come back within a certain time frame, wherein I used to see my male friends, they did not have anything of that sort, right? So it has been there. While I understand the safety bit of it, parents being protective about their child, but then at the end of the day, I think it is that time that we should actually be confident, and the thought process has to be ingrained from the very childhood, that it is safe, for everyone to be out. You should be able to do whatever you want to do, right? You should be able to come back home at whatever time you want to come back. You can go out at any point in time, you can do, you can walk in a certain way, you can do exactly everything that you really want to do. So I think it was there early on in the childhood that I have been part of, but then I think we do have come a long way from there. I've been blessed with very forward thinking set of parents, and my grandmother, of course, and that has kind of laid a very very strong foundation in me. Right. So yeah, I mean, I think I'll invite further comments from the fellow panelists on that.
So to add to what Mukta said, uh, One very common statement that a girl child hears from parents is she was brought up as the son they never had. And I proudly say I was brought up like a daughter that my parents always wanted. I was never the son they never had because they never wanted a son. So I think it starts from that, we don't even realize the fact that you were brought up as a son somebody never had is a very sexist comment to me. So
It is.
it's something that it is something that is gets so ingrained in us. uh, then when she was telling me, I was just remembering a college incident where one neighbor told my dad, and me and my dad were out, and told my dad, I've seen your daughter, and we with a lot of force, with a guy, as if and my dad just looked at him and said, "Thank you for telling me that my daughter doesn't turn invisible when she goes out." I mean, that's a casual sexism because you are actually thinking that a girl cannot be seen out with a guy. Whereas if I were a guy, you would have proudly said, I've seen her with a girl. The attitude difference comes in. The sexism comes in when you go for an interview or even when you go for funding. A woman is still asked, what about your family plans, marriage plans, at whatever age, your kids, children. A male is rarely asked that question. And to take it to a more serious note, I think the biggest casual sexism I see is when we say they deserved rape, which is the worst form of casual sexism that I see. When somebody said she was asking for it, or in the other form of when we get up and say ki churiya pehen ke rakhiye, which is a girl's to say that you're not brave enough. I think these are two strong statements that I come across every other day, especially on social media or among people. But yeah, these are some of the sexism stuff that I've seen myself. Not to mention that there are others. I think my friends, I have been lucky at workforce and family that I've not faced it as much as others. And I call myself lucky because I know I'm an exception. So that is there. Would I have stood up for it? I stand up for others, at least online, etc. I've not faced it to say that I would have stood up for it or not, but I think I would have.
All right, all right. You gave really pertinent examples, Priyashmita, actually.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so we can go ahead with Shakun. Would you like to add to this?
And I've been just smiling while listening to what is being said. um a lot of time what happens is we don't even realize, because the way that we've been brought up, even if you're not thinking about your family, even if you think about every day you go out, there's so many incidences, there's so many places, no, that you do not even realize when you're being mansplained, or when somebody. So I'll give you like a very small example. In the startup world, a lot of time, unfortunately, there are more mentors or more advisors who are not females, which is changing, of course, with time. But what happens is when you actually go out, I myself get to hear, "Bichari ki help karni padegi because she needs help," and I just hate that. Why is somebody who identifies as a woman is being called bichari, while another person who's also a founder is not bichara, but he just needs support, or he just needs some connections. So they're like, those small things where people do not even understand what they're doing, but subconsciously they just think that, hey, they need to protect the woman, they need to like take care of the woman. And I just think, because of this, what happens is a lot of time you yourself start thinking that you do not have the equal ground as your counterparts, because you will be seen differently, you would be treated differently. You can't actually a lot of time go ahead and say, hey, you know what, you don't even mean whatever you're talking about, and you're not giving me equal opportunity or equal funds, because unfortunately you're thinking of me as a woman rather than just as an entrepreneur. So it just happens, like on a day-to-day basis. If we start putting it on paper, then I think I would have written multiple books by now. But things are changing. There are more women founders. There are more people, like, even here, when we are talking about it, I do see that even though we are talking about, how sexism or how casual sexism has become a part of our lives, but still we are not very negative about how we are looking at the world. And I think that's a very, very, very big positive. So it happens every day. I just, like, sometimes think you just have to listen to it, you just have to move forward. And if you just think that somebody is being an ass, you just have to, show them the door. And that's what everybody has to understand, that nobody in this world is, like, indispensable. And once you understand that, then you just start taking care of yourself better. So, Dr. Surbi, over to you.
Yeah. Tumpa, would you like to add to this? The discussion about casual sexism?
Sure, I think this is something which all of us can relate, and I'm sure we all would have something or the other to contribute, because it's not related to me or anybody. I think we all come across certain, certain maybe remarks which are intentional, unintentional, but we do have, we have been brought up in a society, and the way we are perceived, like, Shakun just mentioned that we are perceived as, okay, female hai, so she needs protection, uske saath kisi ko bhej do, or too heavy lifting for a woman, these sort of remarks. Like, I would just take my example. We are two sisters, and back then my dad used to say that, I have raised my daughters as son. So it was a compliment back then that, yes, he has made us independent. He has made us, what should we say, given us the right education to take the right decision. Even if there are, men in the family, or there are uncles and elder males in the family, we had still been asked, what is your opinion, being the daughters in the family. And I think my dad was much progressive. I still remember that frown my uncle's face when he used to ask, do you really want to check with her that what needs to be done? It's normal, a very normal family related decision. Just maybe, selling a property. So he used to say, yes, I need to see what my daughters think about it, and it is their opinion matter. So we have grown in the society where, of course, I consider myself to be very, very lucky that we have got that kind of a parenting which has never, discriminated us as daughters or sons. But again, we never talk like I have raised my son as a daughter. We have never made or never heard that kind of a remark. So it is important when being a mother of a son and a daughter. I know there are certain differences in the way they think, maybe because of the nature of their gender. But as a parent, I think it is a moral responsibility that we treat them equal. If I'm asking my daughter to thoda khana banana seekho, so I should also be doing the same with my son, that you should learn how to cook, because cooking is a skill and we all need to learn. It has got nothing to do with a female learning cooking and, sustaining in her future family or in-laws or whatever. So I think that mindset is very, very important. It's evolved a lot. I have seen my friends also thinking the same way, but then still there are some stereotypical families where we see that usually girls are seen as a caregiver. They should be taking care of the kitchen. They should be taking care of the family, and men are the one who should go out. They should, take care of the business or the work. So yeah, we are breaking out of that thought process, but still a long way to go.
That's true. Now, we talked about being victimized with casual sexism, but we did not talk about the things that we might do, to maybe men, or probably transgender people, or probably people from the LGBTQIA spectrum. So many a times what happens is that even women, say such things like, don't cry like a girl, या फिर क्या लड़कियों की तरह धीरे धीरे खाना खा रहा है, या फिर क्या लड़कियों की तरह बात कर रहा है, क्या लड़कियों की तरह हाथ हिला रहा है, क्या लड़कियों की तरह चल रहा है, चूड़ियां पहन के बैठा है क्या, things like that even women say. And they may even judge gay people probably based on their dressing, or maybe on the way they behave, or the soft voice that they try to talk in. So do you think you have done any such things, or you have experienced women doing such things to the other genders?
I think it happens, Surbi, and we see that, and it's sad, but it is true that it happens. One of the things, which requires a lot of awareness is that, you know, an individual has the right to feel the way they feel, right? And therefore, basic thing that a human being expects is respect, right? And I think that is where I would start this conversation from. That you need to be really kind to a fellow human being, and not look at them as anything else rather than just a human being, just an individual, right? Trying to live their lives the way they want to. And I think that is where I think a lot of work needs to be done, and a lot of awareness needs to be built in. um, yeah, so back to you, Surbi.
Mm,
Yeah,
to
would
just come in,
would anybody? Yeah, please continue.
yeah, to uh, to say that we've never done it is going to be a false statement. We evolve with time. I'm sure when I was in college, I would have done this. Don't remember specific instances, but I wasn't as aware as I am today. Let me put it that way. So it's and as a child, I know I have done it. I do remember it. I do regret it. I remember a specific incident I had done, and I was must be around 10 or 11. I did not know. I mean, when we were kids, we didn't know about gays and transgenders, etc. Okay. Uh, Today we are of course conscious. I mean, even like you all said, uh, and to say that women don't do it is wrong. Patriarchy is as much ingrained in us as it is in all genders. It's how we've been brought up. So to say that that is there. Being evolved is not a gender specific thing. We all need to evolve with time, and some men are evolved, some women are evolved. uh, so like I said, as a child, I do remember one incident and something I'm extremely ashamed of today. I wish I could go back when I was 10 or 12 and undo what I did. uh, but as of right now, I hope I'm not. Again, I cannot say, because see, there are a lot of things that we don't understand. For example, when we are speaking to a trans man, to a trans woman, what are we saying? We also need to get educated, which means the conversation needs to start off as to what are people expecting from us, how do we evolve, and it's a continuous cycle. So as of today, consciously, I don't think I will make such a mistake. Unconsciously, I am 100% sure I do some things which are sexist, etc. My horizon has broadened. I have friends from all across. But like I said, impossible that unconsciously I still don't make some mistakes.
Yeah, yeah. Would anybody else like to add to this? Whether they have made such mistakes, or they remember doing some such things earlier in their lives?
I think, Surabhi, I just want to add that, of course, now that we have more awareness, when we were growing up, and we did not talk much about, LGBT plus community. We did not have much of an awareness. Our parents also, I remember our societies, they did not talk much about it the way it is being discussed these days. And we see that people are now, comfortable coming out of the closet and sharing, their viewpoint, and being very open about it, which wasn't there when we were growing up. Of course, there is, we have evolved and come a long way to achieve this state, which is a great thing. However, casual sexism, if I have to just discuss about that, there had been instances where we probably in a in a friendly manner or with friends, we do, say things like, okay, you wear this, acha impression padega. So, we kind of, um, what should we say, stress more on the physical attributes and focus less on the talent. So these sort of things, we do get into, probably with time and maybe with more maturity and awareness, we stop ourselves from making those remarks. But yes, when in a casual scenario, we know that we are only with friends and nobody would take an offense of what we say, we do, make such statements. But if you think, if you go back and think, you actually feel bad that you shouldn't have said that. But just because the person is not, coming back to you and saying that, hey, I do not like the way you talk, or I do not like what you just said, or it is demeaning. So unless and until you hear these things, you think that it's okay to make those statements, and you think that your friends are taking it casually and they're not feeling bad about it, or maybe it's just funny, but it isn't. So I think we need to be more careful that what are we saying, where are we saying, and what kind of background or people are we at.
Correct. Okay, we do have a question related to the same topic, which we are about to end now. So we will finish with the question. Isn't the fact is that the casual sexism in society equally carried by the female part of our society, which we were already discussing? Aren't the men who stand against termed as not so manly even during choosing a potential partner?
And I think that is the thought where you're wanting to change, right? Uh, and very very pertinent question, Arunav. Thanks for that. But then that is exactly where we need to bring in some change in the thought process, and we need to sort of create more awareness, as to how we can not do this, right? So I mean, that is very very easy way of looking at it. I think if anyone else would want to add.
Yeah, would anyone else want to add? Okay, so we will go with the next topic. So, Shakun, I would like to ask you this question. What about menstrual leaves? When we talk about menstrual leaves, so is it valid? Do you think that it should be valid, or do you think patriarchy demeans menstrual leaves, or do you think it's just too much to ask for?
Dr. Surbi, we have to see, how things are changing. If we are openly talking about menstrual leave, obviously, there's a change that's happening. So I can actually tell you about, what happens in our company. And this was a question that I had put to, one of the team members who was pretty senior, and they identify as non-binary. And my question was like, hey, how are we going to take it up? Because if we give menstrual leave, then there will be like, like how many leaves can we give? Because that was a very genuine question, because ultimately you still have to think about work as well. And the answer was very interesting, that what we have to do is we have to make it open, and we have to have confidence in our colleagues. So what we do is, no question asked off. You just have to tell us that, hey, you know what, I do not want to work today. I would not be at work. Hey, I would not be at work for 2 or 3 days. And the other person has to understand, because a lot of times you do not even feel comfortable to, like saying it out loud that, hey, you know what, I'm taking it off because of my menstrual cycle. And it actually happened to me. So a few days back, so I have an instructor who comes home, and I called him and I said like, hey, you know what, today I would not be training with you. And his thing was, his first question was like, why, are you just going to take a break? And because you're already at such a level that you should not be taking a break. And I kept on listening to him, and I don't know what happened. I did not tell him that I'm menstruating, and I just told him I'm just not feeling well. And I kept the phone down. And it made me feel so bad because here I'm talking about femtech. Here I'm talking about, making a change and accepting that everybody has special needs, everybody has, those specific things. So it's so, deeply ingrained in us that a lot of time we just talk, but we are not able to do something, or even when we're doing, we're not able to like wrap our head around it, or it's just a very slow process overall. So that was how we also started like working that you do not have to tell, if you do not want to tell that you're taking a menstrual leave. All you have to say is, I cannot be at work today, and the company has to work and the colleagues have to work in such a way that they understand that the reasons could be anything. And I think once that starts happening, but obviously I'm not an like into HR, so I would not know 100%. I just know because this is my second startup, that we've made it a point that the teams get to be so comfortable with each other, and the work is automated so much that people are not dependent on each other. And that if you're taking a menstrual leave, me included, I usually take it like every month I do not work for 3 days. It's acceptable by everybody else. And I think it's going to take some time, but it's happening. And with more female or people who menstruate coming at like senior levels, or at least team leaders, they are making that change. And it looks positive, but obviously like we started with the discussion that it's still at least 20 to 30 years when we just completely accept it, not just from an employer point of view, but even from an employee point of view, that if I go and I say like, hey, I'm on my periods, I would not be judged, or I would not feel shy. So yeah, so that's how it goes. It's just like there's no straight answer to it. It's just like how we've been conditioned. But things are moving, things are going for the for a better place. But we also do have this hustle culture, which makes it difficult also. But ultimately it's about getting the right company, right colleagues, and how well your system is in place, that you're not dependent, and you can move forward.
Okay. Would anybody else like to add to this?
I think I'll just go add to what Shakun said, and I think I was reflecting upon when she was making those very pertinent points. Yes, we still do live in that period when people do have problems taking that that. I mean, talking about that particular word, right? Menstrual leave or period leave, right? But I think I see a lot of organizations have come in. They have introduced menstrual leave, right? A lot of companies are showing a lot of maturity, in the way they are handling. But having said that, I think the first company I was working with, it had unlimited sick leave. They did not have any quota, right? And the pure play reason behind it was anybody can feel sick, and we can't really count how many days we'll be feeling sick, right? We'll fall sick, we'll not feel well, right? I think and I think what Shakun said, that probably they were not very vocal about it then, but it surely helped a lot of our female colleagues to manage the days they were on periods and they could not come to work. I think yes, it surely needs to be taken up, and a lot of, I mean, I was reading the article the other day wherein menstrual pain has been often compared with a heart attack, right? So it is that bad, and if that is that bad, then I think it should be made a little bit of it should be made common that we should be able to take some leave around that period in the month. So yeah, back to you, Surabhi.
Yeah. Would anybody else like to add to this, or shall we move on?
So if you ask for menstrual leaves, I think it's important for especially some women, experience unbelievable pain. Uh, but I did like, what Shakun said, that, we have 30 days leave and you choose what you want to use it for. Doesn't matter what it is. So that's of course something which would work, I feel. What also needs to work on is also beyond leaves, and something that I've been trying to drive, but to no change anywhere, is that we need to start judging employees based on KRAs and not the hours that they're spending at the work. If some, unless you're billable hours, because if you're delivering what you're doing, what leave have you taken makes shouldn't make a difference to the anyone in the world. Whether it's a menstrual leave, whether it's another leave, because I'm not paying you to come to work or spend 8 hours at work. I'm paying you to deliver something. So I think if we start changing a bit of mindset to that, I think this will get. But also, like people talking about it, I think we're still embarrassed to talk about it. Many people are. But I think it's changing. I think the younger generation is much more vocal. They will get up and speak everywhere about it. And it should be, as it should be. And I mean, something I really support, that people, that's what should happen. But yeah, I think just making 30-day leave and take for whatever reason should be the bare minimum step any company should do. Take it for whatever reason you feel like.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so moving ahead, we also talk about parental leaves, right? Like maternal leave, paternal leave. So, what do you think about that? Yeah, a lot of people mock paternal leaves, but they're okay with maternal leaves. So, why does this happen? What is the reason behind this? Why is it mocked that much?
I think part of the reason for mocking is that we are not used to seeing men being caregivers. It's a
Exactly.
shocking thing for us. Men can take care of children. I mean, most people can't. And I know a lot of single parents who are men. I mean, male single fathers. And honestly, they're better parents than most female single parents or parents that I see. So it's an absolute myth that we have brought up. And somebody did mention, I think somebody asked a question that you're not manly enough is going to be the question. Are you spending time? But I think this is something that we need to come in. So parental leave should become a norm. And it should become both, because if you make it only for the one person, you're basically saying that the caregiver is only the female, which is not the case. The caregiver is both. Unless somebody's decided to consciously be a single parent, it's both caregivers. Both needs to have that leave. We can adjust it, 6 months, whatever it is, have work, those things can evolve. But this belief that if there is only a maternity leave needs to, and paternity leaves is only 7 days, where most of the time, at least experience that I have had with friends, is men just take off sick, I can't handle it, and offer a holiday before they join back work. So that's what paternity. I mean, I'm part of this group where this every female founder was like, the paternity leave was used like this by my husband. And I think that entire thing, like I said, I think this ethos, I think Tumpa was saying na, we don't say that हमें अपने लड़की को मतलब लड़का को लड़की जैसे बड़ा किया है. I think it starts from there. Teach your children to, and I was seeing a TikTok video, a couple of days back, as to how important it is when children play, boy kids play with dolls, because they learn to be caregivers. Then we snatch away and give them something to fight, a fighter doll, etc. Whereby we are actually saying that you can't be a caregiver, whereas a male can be an equal, maybe at times a better caregiver than this one. So I think that entire belief system needs to change, that it's only a woman's job, both ways. I mean, both in terms of corporate life as well as in looking after the family.
Absolutely. Tumpa, would you like to add on something?
No, I think more or less covered whatever my thought process is. Absolutely, bang on. And I think it should actually be increased, because after giving birth to a child, a woman needs more rest. So if she has her spouse around, then she would be able to take care of her body and heal better than taking care of the kid alone and the husband is working. So it
Yeah.
should actually be increased, and it should be perceived as very, very important break from work for male members as well. There are organizations like my organization also have adoption leave, where if a couple decide to adopt a kid, they get leaves to take care of the kid and welcome the kid in the family and whatever other critical things that needs to be handled at the same time. So I think all these things are very, very important, and it should be absolutely regardless of the gender. So the kid needs time from both the parents, and first, the caregiver tag should not be given to a female only. I think in my family, I have seen my dad is more emotional, more soft. My mom being more practical. So I've never, come across those stereotypical role in my family. So I do not think it absolutely makes sense, and we need to do away with that thought process.
All right. Okay, now that we know about, I think that you must be aware about trans people these days, and trans people working in corporates and working in HR and working here and there. So, do you think that they have to face more gender disparity than women have to? Number one. And what can we do better for improved inclusivity of women as well as trans people at the workplace?
I think I'll take that, Surabhi, first, and
Yeah.
then, of course, Tumpa and Priyashmita can add. Um, I think we can start by a very small, basic thing is that, when we add, and I'm talking from a professional point of view, that, when we add an employee to our database, we should also have other in the gender, rather than just male and female, just to be a little more inclusive, right? That is one. Second is that I think that, basic level where this starts is the thought process. So I think to make this very, very common, or maybe, very a natural thing, maybe, because there's nothing that, one can do really about. But then that particular awareness that, you have to bring in since the very beginning, amongst the minds of our children, or even at home, when we are talking about it, be a little more inclusive. And again, going back to my one point, answer for every question, which is respect. If you sort of make it very evident that, every individual has deserves to be respected, and therefore they need to be treated equally, is very, very important. So those two things, I think, it should be able to, start the very thought process of changing towards how we treat trans individuals, or even a lot of cases, even diversity cases as well. Back to you, Surabhi.
To be or on mute.
Yeah. Would anyone else like to add on to this?
Yeah, I
I
think I
think
would add that, I'm sure that, a transgender has to face the discrimination, because if we look at our society, even women these days also are facing discrimination. So I definitely cannot imagine that what a trans woman or a trans, a man has to face. I'm sure, there would be discrimination in society, and I'm sure the only way of managing this better is to treat our kids and to, educate them that, as we just heard, that we need to teach them how to treat everybody with the same respect and quality. But it is not, again, very easy, because what we see is what we learn. It's not that you can tell the same thing to the kid and he would register it and he would execute it in the same way. Just giving a small example, my daughter had a friend in her class who was adopted by two fathers. So this was a gay couple who were immigrated from a different country to India, and they settled down, and they adopted this kid. So it was very overwhelming for the kids to, to accept that their friend has come from a family who does not have a mother. So, it's not very easy for the kids also to, to look at somebody which is very different from the normal, family setup. And that is something which we also need to learn first, because if I'm not able to, accept, I'm not aware of, what all is happening in the society, how can I make my kid aware of these things? So I have to be sensitive, and I need to tell them it's absolutely okay. These things are happening, these things are accepted, and it is absolutely fine. Your friend is a friend. You do not have to judge him by his parents, or he has two fathers or he has two mothers. Anything is possible in today's society, the way it's evolving. We are yet to see and understand a lot. I think our understanding, our knowledge is also very, very limited in these fields, when it comes to treating them, or when it comes to behaving in a certain manner. Maybe we have learned a lot, we have gone through videos, we have gone through articles, and gone through books, but when it comes to a practical life scenario, when you face somebody unexpectedly, what do? How do you deal with it? What are the things that you should say? What are the things that you should not say? These are very, very broad topics and very, very sensitive topics, which at least me as a person have to learn a lot. But there is always a conscious effort. What I have seen, and I would always encourage, is to make your kid, at least this is least that we can do, is make them understand that it is absolutely okay and it is acceptable. So there should not be any, what should I say? There should not be any inhibition in accepting anything which is out of the normal. So that is where we need to start from.
Yeah, yeah, well said. All right, I'll come to the next question. It is about washrooms. So basically, washrooms at workplace. So a lot of washrooms of women are named as powder rooms. The washrooms of men are named as toilets. And for transgender people, generally, we do not have a third washroom. So I'll come to the transgender issue later. But there is a lot of mockery even in this, that when two women are probably using the powder room, men tend to say, हाँ वो अभी एक दूसरे को powder लगाने जा रही है. Okay, things like that. So what do you think? Why is it so? And another question which I would like to add on to this is, should the transgenders be having another washroom, or should their washroom be gender inclusive? Or should they be able to go to the washrooms of the genders they identify with? So these are the two questions mixed in one.
So I'll just go. The fact is, the powder room thing came about because, I think in the late Europe, 18th century or something, powder room was more because where we go ahead and groomed ourselves, and that's how that term came about. Should it change? Of course, it should change. I think powder room is now. I've not seen it in any corporate, but I'm sure it is used somewhere. But it should be. I think high time, because I think men groom themselves equally, or should if they haven't. So I think the entire concept of powder room should change, or rather should be inclusive. Rather, everything should be called a powder room, because I would like to see a man coming out of a restroom a little more cleaner than when they went in. So that's the first thing. Second is, should bathrooms be gender inclusive, uh, or rather, trans inclusive? I think it should be, or we should have a gender neutral. I think restroom going forward. I think if we cover the first topic, that men should be a little more groomed and clean, I think we can move on to a world where we can have a gender neutral restroom as well. Because a third gender, literally, if you have a third gender restroom, you're literally saying that I am separating you out, which is not a right way. So
Exactly.
one of the things I had learned when I was, creating my own company last year, was that the idea of inclusivity cannot be my moral high ground, while I make them feel uncomfortable. So before I actually take in trans people into my organization, I should ensure that my company is sensitized, because it's not my moral, this victory to go tell, oh, yeah, while I make them feel uncomfortable. So a third bathroom is absolutely out of the question, because then you're completely segregating them. Then might as well not hire them. I mean, no one's holding a gun to our head right now, while they should, to hire them, because we have no right to hire somebody and make them feel uncomfortable. So
Absolutely.
definitely, either you have one, or you have, as they identify themselves, because the third is absolutely out of the question. We shouldn't even be considering it at all. And if we consider that, then please don't hire them, because I mean, they're all smart enough to get hired by companies which actually deserve them than companies which don't.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with your point. Okay, does anyone else want to add to this? All right. Okay. So very well spoken. Okay, so I think we have reached the almost the end of our panel discussion. So I would like to ask you, what's your message for the people, irrespective of their gender, to attain better gender parity, and how can we collectively get more sensitized through, of course, innovation and technology, which was the basic topic. So
I think if you ask me about gender sensitization through innovation and technology, I think I'll start with first company hiring. If you're an AI driven company, please ensure there's diversity in your hires, because if you don't have diversity in your hires, your AI is going to be biased and your entire thing of diversity goes for a toss. That's the first thing that I would recommend. The second is, if I'm using technology to become more gender sensitive, do listen to what other genders are saying, which means it could be the women, it could be trans, it could be, or even other sexuality. It could be a gay woman, it could be anything. Listen to them. One of the things, and I say this across genders, both men and women don't have a habit of listening to people. So there are TikTok videos, some, I think Sanjeev mentioned TikTok, Instagram, etc. There are places, just use technology to listen, to get sensitized. We did not, at least I did not know so many things about gender issues maybe a decade ago. Today I do know, because I made it a point to learn, and one of the places I learned was the internet and using technology. So use it, learn it, and be open about it. The world is going to be insensitive to all of us at some point of time. We need to figure out that we need to be kind to everyone, so that the world in turn also is kind to us, because I don't think we would like anyone to be unkind and bad to us. So use the same thing, just use it and use technology to actually learn.
I totally
Over to
agree
you.
with what Priyashmita is saying, and I think this is change that we need to bring at a family level, at a personal level, at a from a workplace standpoint. I think at the family or the grassroots level, that is where the value is developed, and we need to ensure that we cannot change the mindset of our our grandparents or our parents. They have already come a long way, and it's very difficult to change them. We know that. But what we can do is to change ourselves. That is the first thing that we need to bring in. And that is how we can bring in the change to the future generation. And I think we need to sensitize them, we need to inform them, we need to educate them about all these things that we are discussing today, about equality, about respecting each other. And from a workplace standpoint, of course, we need to ensure that we are managing from the hiring standpoint, we are managing the diversity percentage, we are managing a healthy balance between all the genders that we are talking about, and disabilities and other walks of life, and bring into our workplace and make it more diverse in terms of the culture and innovation, and also include them in our digital upskilling programs. We need to include them when we are designing these AI tools, because we just heard that it's mostly driven by males. The co-founder of these tools or these technologies are mostly being developed, and hence I think females are still yet to catch up to that level. So I think we need to bring in more females in the teams. We need to bring in more opinions, and we need to be open to all the feedback that has to be included to develop that kind of AI or tool. That is how I think we will be able to bring them to a equal platform, and we will be able to reduce the disparity.
Yes. Mukta, would you like to go ahead?
I think Prismita and Tumpa covered it well, and it all starts. Charity begins at home. I think it is very, very important that we start talking about it in our close groups, and therefore increase more awareness here, right? And I think new age parents, they already think a lot differently. That is where at least we can bring in some change to the future generations as well, right? But having said that, I think it is going to be important that how we talk about um, these very important topics amongst our colleagues, our friends, family. It's going to be important that how we set the expectation right, so that it is taken in the right spirit, and therefore whatever needs to be done in the correct spirit of it, we should be doing that. So yeah, back to you, Surabhi.
Okay, thank you. We did have one last question. I think, admin, would you like to flash it? Yeah. How important it is for us to accept men and women are not built equally, either physically, biologically, and equity in thoughts and behaviors are important than trying to compete with each other.
Um, if I may go, I think no two human beings are built equally. So then, don't two human beings compete with each other? I mean, you might be good in something, I might be good in something physically, mentally, biologically, whatever way. Then why is that moment there's a gender differentiation? Do we have to have this? We can't compete, etc. I mean, and equity doesn't mean that both of us have to do the same thing in the same way. It just means both of us need to have the same opportunity to do the same things. Okay, which way we do it is our call, so it will. So to first of all, we have to understand that every human being is different from the other. So then, we can't get up and say, oh no, two human beings get the same opportunity. So there, I would like to believe it. And it's not like we are competing with each other. We are basically trying to save everyone, and I'm saying everyone, men, women, deserve the same opportunity. And when I say opportunity, it means in corporate life, in parenting life, in every way that you talk about it. Because I think patriarchy also goes to the fact that a man cannot cry. What nonsense is that? Yeah, I mean, what you're taking away, they're robbing their rights to have an emotion in life. So I think we are all built more or less in a certain way similarly, and we can all behave in a certain way, but with our own unique ways, and that unique ways can come because of the kind of person we are, because of the gender we belong to, because of the sexuality we profess, uh, and in any way possible.
Yeah, wonderfully answered,
Should
Priyashmita.
that we should not be aiming at putting them at the same platform competing against each other. It is about bringing in their and their diverse thought process, their talent, and then seeing that how if we put all of it together and how we collaborate and achieve bigger goal. Without
And absolutely, and just to add there, maybe my last bit. Um, a very noble man once told me that competition should be with self. You should be the better version of yourself with every passing day. You should be the better version of yourself. Therefore, the competition should be with your own self rather than these competitions between men and women or any such categories. um, and therefore I think it is important to you know collaborate, to be able to come out as a winning team, because everyone brings in very, very different perspective from one another, and which is going to really help us achieve whatever we want to achieve in the bigger picture level, right? So I think it is important to be able to mutually work and respect each other's point of views, so that we can work together to achieve what are we set what we have set out for. So yes, important point, and the message is very clear that a competition should be with yourself, and two, that you should always respect different point of views. I think that will help you enrich your own self as well. Back to you, Surbi.
All right, so we have reached the end of our panel discussion, and that makes me want to ask you basically that how did you enjoy this panel discussion? How did you enjoy this webinar? And what are your closing comments?
I'll go first, if I may. I think I have thoroughly enjoyed the discussions, and this is not something that we need to prepare. And this is something that comes to us very naturally. We think like this, and hence we are talking in this manner. And the topic which is very, very close to our hearts. This is the topic which is related to us more. We need to come up with more innovative, to bring in that parity that we are all trying to achieve and discuss just now. And it's very, very interesting to see how organizations, countries, and how the HRD, the UN, everybody would be working towards coming up with more employee policies, coming up with more equality policies, and bringing all or maybe how we started the discussion, that ideal state we are yet to reach. It would be a very, very interesting journey. We have a long way to go as a country, but I think we are definitely seeing some great signs, and people are changing, their thought processes are changing, and so is the workforce evolving. So great to be a part of this discussion, and great to be a part of your journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tumpa. Okay.
I think it's really been a pleasure, having these wonderful conversations with all of y'all. Thank you for bringing in so much. I mean, of course, these are things that we usually talk about, but often we miss out on touching upon these important topics. And I think thank you, my fellow panelists. You all have really given me a lot of insightful points to be reflecting upon, right? And there's so much that I could I can actually take back and probably deliberate more on in my further conversations that I have in my with my colleagues, and of course my friends and family. Thank you so much. It was really lovely evening spent.
Yeah, I think I loved it. I think it's a topic very close to my heart, and I love listening to all of y'all, and knowing that there are other people having similar views. And let's hope in a few years, and not 20 to 30 years, we can see equity and then finally equality also someday. Thank you so much. It was a Saturday well spent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shakun had to leave urgently. She had some urgent call, so we could not take her closing comments. But I really hope that she enjoyed the panel discussion as much as the other speakers did. So yeah. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and coming over and discussing on this topic, which is very close to your hearts. So have a wonderful evening, have a wonderful Saturday night, and have a wonderful life ahead. At Evrox Healthcare, we care about your health, and we care about your mental health as well. And this is how we bring in such topics to discuss upon, and we bring in such wonderful speakers who are well known for these topics, who are well known in their arenas, who are well known in their professions, and well known speakers who know what they are saying and who know how to say what to say. So this was a wonderful webinar that we had today, and we would like to continue with such webinars. So please do comment as to what you would like us to cover in the upcoming sessions, in the upcoming webinars, and the kind of speakers that you would like us to bring in. Also, do like and subscribe our channel for more and more such interesting webinars coming up. And please do wait for the F1 app, which is being launched soon. And contact us for the demo as soon as possible on the number given on the poster, which will flash soon after I go offline. Thank you and have a good night.